I had to actually pull out my phone before coming here because when I glanced, I had forgotten this. When I glanced in the hymnal for the back, for the hymn, who remembers it? Once to every man and nation. Remember that one? The hymn tune was Tony Botel. We kept the tune on our hymnal, but we set the text aside. That was, once to every man and nation comes the moment to decide in the strife of truth with falsehood for the good or evil side. That was a World War I text. And sort of written to rally the troops, right? We got to get on the right side. The idea that there would be, just one moment, one time for every man and nation sort of found a great audience then. And so I wanted that came to mind here because this isn't just sort of a pivotal moment for us. It isn't just a moment that's come along. It's been 5, 6 years in the making for sure, but if one stretches back, there have been several starts at strategic planning for Christ Church over the last generation. And we're coming, I think, to a point where it will be time for us to do something, but I wanted to hit some of those highlights of my last 6 years with you that leads us to this moment. One of the things that was important along the way to tell our story was to gather some bylaws. For example, we learned that the articles of incorporation of the cathedral were no longer current, and that was something that was done. Along the way, we revisited our mission statement, the idea that would be a church that proclaimed the good news of God and Christ from this corner, 9th and Broadway downtown, was something that vestry and leadership came together on and reaffirmed. We came to rethink and restructure the way we did mission. The idea was to make it very easy for the person who walked in our door to quickly find their place in our life, quickly put their gifts to work for Christ Church. And that, I think we're still working on that, but have made great strides. But also, likewise, to make it possible for the parishioner who maybe over time has drifted to the perimeter of perilous life to quickly re-engage us. So a new mission structure that centers on proclaiming and seeking and serving became a part of our life. And then we came to the point where about a year ago we thought it was important to begin to specifically rethink and revision how we were ministering downtown in Nashville, with Davidson County going through just sort of untold changes over the last 5 years. And you can't step out of any door of the cathedral and not see the horizon, I guess depending on your perspective, enhanced or polluted by cranes, right? You can't help but see that and know that downtown is changing. There's, for example, we will for many overnight become a neighborhood church again. That's happening right now. And so this past January, the Cathedral's vestry appointed a strategic planning committee. They've been meeting with a dedicated spirit since early February and now want to check in with you today for the first time. I'm grateful to Scott Hoffman. We want to have him in our prayers today. Scott has been leading this committee. Scott's been in the hospital since Wednesday. Please pray for him. He had some unanticipated, after an injury and a plane ride, a blood clot in his leg that they've been working to treat. He hopes to go home tomorrow, but he could not be with us today. Please have him in your prayers. His right-hand man has been Scott Vibrantz, a familiar face not only from the parish, but also having led us through last year's visioning process. And I'm going to hand off to him to ask him to take it from here. Bless you, Scott. Thank you so much. Indeed.
So yes, they brought the big guy in from the bullpen. So this is by way of an update on what's been going on with the Strategic Planning Committee. We wanted to walk you through some of our work and spend a little time on some of the goal work that we've done to date and hopefully get your feedback on that. So we're going to talk a little bit about the committee formation and work to date. The story is a story that we're developing for us and for you to help us think about the work that we're doing together and what it means for us in Nashville as Nashville continues to grow. Brief process review on the visioning process last fall, the goal statements that we've started to develop and need your feedback on, talk a little bit about next steps, and then open the floor up for questions and comments. So that's the state of play. So the committee was formed, as Timothy said, in January, chosen with input from the clergy and vestry. Scott Hoffman is the chair. He's done a terrific job of leading us through to this point. And again, sorry he can't be here. The members of the committee are Ed Burgess. If you could stand if they're here, that'd be great. Ed Burgess, Rebecca Collins, Bergen Dossett, Gracie Kilman, who you'll hear from in a minute, Steve Lastly, Anna Noser, Capel Simmons, Pete Stringer, myself, Ellen Wright, and the clergy, and Diane Green, who's helping us with communications. So that's the group that's been meeting. We've been meeting roughly every 10 days or so. We first spent time reviewing and discussing the input from the fall visioning sessions, understanding that, kind of level loading across the group. And then we reviewed the finances and the balance sheet to have a fuller understanding of how that works. Ed Burgess did a terrific job of taking us through that. And since then, we've broken into work groups. We've started to work on the story, which Gracie will tell you about in a minute. The development of the overarching goals and the actions that will fit in under those goals that will guide our planning, our strategic plan going forward. Worked on communications and how we interact with you and communicate to you over the next few months. And then the campus team has been working. We're not going to talk a lot about the campus today. Altogether, sorry about that. But they've been working on as is and starting to look at the future. But as we've talked about in the past, what we decide to do, the goals we set for ourselves, the actions that will lead us to those goals will really dictate how we think about the campus and what the campus will do in facilitating us in those actions and goals. So they're working in parallel, but we obviously intend to meet at some point. So that's been the work to date. One of the pieces of that has been Joshua and Gracie working on developing the story, how we talk about our work, how we can obviously offer a way for you all to think and talk about the work. And I wanted Gracie to come up and talk a little bit about that now. So, Gracie?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Gracie. It is a privilege to get to speak to you, hopefully briefly, this morning. First, I wanted to cover the idea of why a story. Why would we need to think about a story? And it's, in large part, it's to provide all of us a vehicle for a unified, a compelling, a reliable narrative that we can all share with our neighbors, with our community, concisely and coherently in a form that's grounded in our mission statement, in our prayer book, and in our Holy Scripture. It's also a way for us to think about our shared story as Nashvillians, as members of the downtown community, and as a historical church, to weave in the story of Christ Church Cathedral as it has been in the past, how it is now, and how we would love it to be in the future. Also, we are a storytelling people. Throughout this whole process, I've been thinking about that old 19th century hymn, I love to tell the story, telling the story of Jesus and Jesus' love, and how we, in our very foundation, are storytellers. So to continue that into the future, how we tell the story of the good news of God in Christ is closely linked with how we tell the story of the strategic plan and what's happening here at the cathedral. So with that, we will recount to generations to come the praiseworthy deeds and the power of the Lord and the wonderful works that he has done. The church always has been a generational enterprise. And from age to age, place to place, time to time, we have asked the question, how does the gospel flourish here in this particular place? So through prayer and discernment, hope and faithfulness, we have thought about this particular scripture passage and grounded ourselves in the knowledge that the Christ Church Cathedral community has, from its very beginning, been a pioneering, group of people living on the frontier of Nashville, on the frontier of time. And in this day and age, with so much changing, with us becoming a neighborhood community for the first time maybe ever, with a neighborhood church, we also want to be on that frontier. We're also in a time of changing religious institutions and communities. And so we want to be that welcome, that open-armed embrace for those who may be looking for such a religious community. So we want to continue to ask ourselves this question of how do we preach the good news of God and Christ to each other? How do we bring that to the downtown community and within ourselves so that all generations may come to know the love of God? So thank you for your time. Continue to mull that over and think about what you'd like to change about that story, or if you're willing to take it on and spread it as is.
Thanks, Gracie. So I did want to walk you through the process. We've talked about this before, of the visioning process we went through in the fall, just to refresh your memory. We did 7 sessions during the fall focused on mission and the work of the commissions. We did 1 session with the youth of the church and the parents and teachers, and we posted a survey on the website to get feedback through that mechanism. And we wanted to answer a couple of questions. If money were no object, what would we do that we're not doing now? If volunteer strength and numbers were of no concern, what ministries would we be about? And what will newly envisioned ministries or maintenance of ministries require of the church campus? And some themes emerged. One was fellowship and building community, this idea that we needed to work together on building community and fellowship. Some of the verbatims that we got back, more opportunities to get all different segments together, especially families with young children. Evening opportunities to meet needs and socialize. Seek ways to link people with similar interest in informal settings. Plan for fellowship the way we plan for Christian education. Those were some of the verbatims we got back that led us to that theme of fellowship and building community. Outreach was the second theme that emerged. Minister more directly to the poor and the marginalized. Tackle issues that cause chronic homelessness. There was a lot of energy around the homeless population in Nashville and how we minister to them. Be more involved in solving issues of poverty, racism, and injustice in our community. Also, better coordination with local service agencies. There was this idea of partnering up. We've done that in many cases. How do we do that more and differently in the future to kind of work on this theme of outreach? And then the last was ministering to and attracting the changing population in downtown Nashville. I'm going to use the lightning rod word evangelism. But it's really, what can we do to draw people into this place, to have them understand and be welcomed into this space and be part of this wonderful community that we have. Get in front of downtown growth, understand the vision for the city of Nashville, and figure out a way to connect with that. Live into being a more open space. There were a number of comments about that. And find ways to get the word out in the surrounding area. How do we let people know about this wonderful place? So those were all things that kind of took us to this idea of ministering and bringing people into our space and community. So from that, we started to develop some goals, and I'm going to show those to you now. This is not us coming down from the mountain with tablets. These are shared goals. These are not the goals of the vestry. These are not the goals of the Strategic Planning Committee. These are goals that we all share. And so the purpose of this is to show them to you. They're works in progress. And we hope that you all will look at them, think about them, and input back to us in this forum here, but also in other ways that we're going to tell you about in a few minutes. But we need your feedback because these are shared goals. These are what we're going to be working on as a community as we move forward in our life together. So we added a preamble: Christ Church Cathedral, a downtown cathedral parish in an expanding urban landscape, intends to live into Christ's mission for the church. With God's help, we will proclaim, to all the mystery and grace of the good news of God in Christ through accessible and sacramental liturgy and formation. Seek to know Christ and each other better through opportunities that connect and deepen the community. Serve to welcome the stranger and support the underserved through partnerships with those committed to the well-being of the vulnerable. So those are the goal statements we worked on. I'll let it sit for a second. I'm going to talk a little bit about each one of the goal statements, but this is the work of a smaller subgroup that is putting this out for consideration and discussion. Let's talk about proclaim. Obviously, that's the pulling people into the community. We're doing things in that area now that are really wonderful. Can we expand those, like cultural arts? Are there other liturgies, like breaking bread at 6, that could become ways of engaging the community outside of Christ Church Cathedral and bring them in? Looking at adult and youth education and how that might fit and help to pull people in. And what could we do from a formal communication standpoint to bring people in from surrounding residential neighborhoods? All of that are things that could fit in terms of actions that might make that goal real and work. Seek to know Christ and each other better through opportunities that connect and deepen the community. That's how do we get to know each other better? Steve Lastly said that in one of our meetings. He said, I read all the feedback from the visiting sessions, and I think we just have this need to know each other better. It's a great thought. On-campus events. What can we do in that area? Off-campus programs, connections, volunteer opportunities. Transportation solutions. We have talked about maybe getting a van. There were a number of people that offered that. Mentorship between seniors and youth, and that came out of the young people wanting mentorship from the seniors. Programs for interest groups, men, women, young families, young singles. All of these things, we're doing things in these areas, but what can we do to enhance those areas to connect us and bring about more fellowship? Serve, to welcome the stranger and support the underserved through partnerships with those committed to the well-being of the vulnerable. Again, this is the idea of reaching out from our walls. Expanded services for the homeless beyond just what we do now. Partnerships with downtown agencies and other churches that could help us strengthen and with our collective work could do great work. The Wayfarer support was one that people mentioned a few times. Is there a way to expand that program and make it beyond what it is now? All of those things are places where we could serve. So that kind of gives you a brief description and an overview of the goal work we've been doing. I think there's maybe a tendency for people to go, well, is that all there is? You guys have been together for like 3 months, you know? Where's the master plan? Yeah, and I just want to say to you, in this process, things move slowly at first. This group, and Scott Hoffman is doing a great job of leading us. This group is, it takes time to get to know each other. It takes time for everybody to kind of get on the same page, if you will. And the work will start to accelerate. We have a date certain at next year's annual meeting to present clear goals, clear action steps, and what implications that will have for the campus. And we're working towards that, and we're moving well. And it's going to, but again, it takes time, and it has this momentum that really gets going as the group starts to work together. So what are the next steps? Well, we're going to continue to meet and work in small groups, in the groups I just shared with you. As we start to get those goal statements crystallized, we'll engage the commissions on the action steps. The next update to the parish is September 11th in the Dean's Forum. And the next piece of work is work for you all, and that is feedback on the work to date. We've got a tab on the website. I'll let Joshua talk to that real quickly. If you go up to the microphone, Joshua, and just talk about a little bit about what we've got on the website, and then I'll talk a little bit more about beyond that. So
as of this morning, if you go to the website, under the About tab, second item down, you'll note that strategic planning has been added And there, right now, what you'll find is a draft of the story as Gracie's presented it. And over the course of the next several days and weeks, we'll be adding more information to that tab. One of the things we've made provision for is a video recording of this session for folks who couldn't be here this morning. And as soon as that's done, that will be added just as a kind of reference point. And hopefully going forward, as we have these check-ins with the parish, those will be added. And then other documents and materials, as they're produced, will just go ahead and be added to that tab. So it'll be sort of an ongoing repository of information about this process, so that hopefully everybody in the parish has a point that they can sort of check in and see where we are, where we've been, and the state of that conversation.
And there will also be a link to a survey asking you some questions, and those who view the video, questions about their feelings and input on what we've presented. So I encourage all of you to talk to people who weren't able to be here and tell them about the link and tell them that the video's there, even though they have to watch me for a long time, which is not so great. But and then the survey, and you'll all be getting an email with a link to the video in case you'd like to watch it again, and then also the survey as well. So all of that is meant to get your input, get your feedback, but also for you to have to know what progress we're making and what's going on. That this is interactive communication in our effort to make sure you understand where we're going and give us that input. So with all that, I'll open the floor up for questions or comments, and what I'll do is go back and put that statement up for you so you can look at that. Thanks. Now, if you have a question and you can make your way to the microphone, great. If you can't, I'll repeat it, because again, we've got the video going. So, Charlie.
So I'm pretty sure most of the people here are not downtown residents, but so to the extent we're trying to minister to this new community that's moving down here, what are some ways? I was thinking, there's some ways we could get some metrics around that in terms of like when people come to breaking bread at 6, gather information on who's coming, and we can gather information from our website so we can get feedback from people that are moving into this area and know whether we're doing a good job, or as opposed to us trying to think of what they would want, and also figure out whether it's working.
That's a great thought. The comment, as much as anything, I guess it's not a question as much as a comment, is how do we get the metrics we need to understand if what we're doing is working in terms of feedback when people come, for example, to breaking bread at 6, getting information on them, or getting information through other means like the website, in terms of knowing if we're pulling those people in and actually that action is having fruit, right? So, great comment. So, Paul.
I want to be sure I understood something. Is there opportunity for feedback through the link on the website?
Yes. The question was, is there opportunity for feedback on the link through the website? And the answer is yes. We will have this.
And where does that feedback go?
That will go to a SurveyMonkey mechanism, and then that will be reviewed by the Strategic Planning Committee, and we'll take that feedback into account as we continue to do our work.
Is it there now? Is the link there now for the survey?
Anna, no, is the link, when will the link be there, Anna? Sorry. The question is the link there now?
The link is going to go live tomorrow with the dissemination of the email. You'll get an email that will have this video of this presentation. Then you'll also get a link to the survey. And then that survey is where we'll draw the feedback from. And we plan to do this at specific intervals throughout this process.
But the link will also be on the website, correct? The link to the survey will also be on the website.
That's a Joshua question.
Okay.
So you'll get an email tomorrow, and it'll have everything you need in it. And all of that information will be reproduced also on the website as a kind of stable place that you can revisit throughout the course of the year to find this information and other information as it becomes available.
Thank you, Joshua.
Sorry, Scott.
It's okay.
Just one more clarification here. Has the survey already been designed, or will the survey be designed in light of feedback?
The survey has been designed. We have been working, the communications committee, the subcommittee on the strategic planning committee, pulled together a survey asking specific questions and asking for feedback. And yes, that is what we will put on the site. Oh, sorry.
I was wondering, how do people within the community who are not computer literate, how do they find out about all this, and then how do they respond?
I know we've.
Can you repeat the question?
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Thank you. How do people that are not computer literate that would prefer to get it in a different form? How will they get this information? Correct. Anna's got the answer to that, so I'll let Anna.
So if you've gotten a copy of your Cornerstone publication, so there's quite a bit of information about it in there. We will be posting updates in the service leaflet, and those are the two primary non-computer means of pushing out this information, as well as occasional announcements by the dean and other clergy shortly before the offertory during the service. So those would be the three primary means.
So the Cornerstone leaflet and announcements. Would the members of the committee that are here stand up again, please? These are also ways of giving feedback. These are the people that are on the committee, and we all welcome your feedback and discussion face to face. That'd be a great way to do it too. Yes, sir.
Are there more specific goals and activities that are being discussed under these very broad rubrics? And are you seeking specifics from the parish at this point, or is that premature?
The question was, are there more specific things that are going to be attached to these broader goals, and are we seeking feedback from the parish on what those might be? Is that get it, Randy?
Yeah.
Okay. The answer is that's a work in progress. That's the next step. Once we've codified those goals and started working, frankly, with the commissions to develop the action steps, because some of the things are things that are likely already things we're doing that we just need to do differently or better. Some of them may be things that are brand new. And yes, we welcome any of that feedback into the process for sure. And that you can do that through the survey or one-on-one. So yes, sir.
So in reference to that, the people will come with ideas that aren't covered by your already formed survey. So what mechanism do you have for free-form comment?
The survey has a free-form box on it. It's got specific questions, but then there's hey, give us everything else you'd like to say. So go ahead, Anna. I'm sorry.
And I would also, just to Paul's question, so yes, we designed the survey for this report and for tomorrow's email, but obviously the feedback that we will be getting going forward will drive future surveys and opportunities to obtain feedback.
So in case that wasn't heard, the survey's been designed to get the feedback from what we're reporting out today, but future surveys will kind of be formed around what we're hoping to get and what we learn from this set of feedback. And it will have a place where you can
we'll always
put
have a
narrative.
space where you can just open for comment, however you want to.
Okay, great, thanks. Yes. Oh, sorry. I'll go over that. I have to. Go ahead. Sorry.
And going forward, is there some cooperation in formulating goals with other downtown churches that's already starting to take place?
The question was, as we go forward and we start to form goals, are we going to engage other downtown churches with whom we were already in partnership or may want to be in partnership? Does that capture the question?
Yes.
Okay. The answer is absolutely. We'll start working with those folks. I think one of one of the key things that came out of the feedback we got in the visioning sessions was this idea of partnerships and how powerful those partnerships can be, not just with agencies, but also with other churches working on the same kinds of things that we think are important. So all of that will be captured in the action steps as we think about how we want to get where we're going. Yes.
So my question has to do with a timeline. You said that there would be another year you would have results of the survey. Is there a timeline for when these changes would be implemented? And is the capital campaign part of what we're envisioning? And is that something that is going to be discussed?
Okay, so the question was around the timeline and how we're going to take action on the feedback we get and how long that's going to take, and if that will then result in, for example, a capital campaign. So I can envision we're going to continue to work on the goals and on the action steps for those goals, and that's going to inform what we think we need to do with the campus. I can imagine what we need to do with the campus is going to require capital. Can we all agree with that? Say amen. So when we come in January, the expectation is we'll have a sense of, hey, here's what we think we need to do, and some logical move into a capital campaign, I would imagine, would be the next step. Yes.
So that those people who are attending the breaking bread at 6 o'clock might be young families and might establish themselves in Nashville and might be having children as a part of our church, could see that the future might involve an expanded campus and a gym.
Exactly. You want that, Jim. I know you do.
So just two things. One is that Rooftop started as a partnership. I mean, Bill Koch saw a problem and he contacted all the different churches, got them together, and that's how Rooftop came to be. So it can work with the goal very nicely. And the other thing, I'm reading these words and I see, expanding urban landscape and welcoming strangers. And, I wonder if we could, sort of the thing that comes to my mind is a little garden outside in that parking lot, which I know we're landlocked and we don't have extra space, but it would certainly be like I see a little pocket garden, pocket park there where people could actually come to rest at our church that are strangers and come to know us. It's just a comment.
The comment was around two things. First of all, Rooftop was a partnership formed out of here with other churches through Bill Koch, and that's become a living, breathing thing that has been done in partnership with other churches downtown. And the other comment was that if we are looking to welcome the stranger and minister to downtown Nashville, that perhaps having some quiet space, reflective space, such as a garden outside where people could come and reflect would be an idea that would have merit. So does that capture it? Okay, good. Yes, sir.
I'm on the board at St. Luke's Community House. We're going through the same strategic planning process. We're in an area of high growth. We are finding that we're the Taurus in strategic planning. Growth in Nashville is ahead. Within 3 miles of this church, I would suggest that there are 10 to 15,000 new people who are well educated, moderately affluent, and unchurched. At St. Luke's, we're finding that as we go along, we need to take obvious action as we go, rather than wait till the end of the process. So I would say at Christ Church, we need to take the same approach.
So the comment was, and it's a great one, St. Luke's is going through this same kind of process and same kind of response to explosive growth in West Nashville. And the suggestion is that within 3 miles of here are 10 to 15,000 newcomers that are unchurched. And rather than waiting, we need to make whatever effort we can while we're in process to make sure we welcome those and let them know about our community. Does that capture your comment? And I think it's a great comment. You're exactly right. And some of that, Breaking Bread with Six is an example of an effort there. Some of the cultural arts things that we do naturally bring people from around the surrounding area here. It's just how do we amp that up, I guess. So,
talk to us a little bit about what do you consider to be, quote, the borders of this church?
So the question was, what do we consider the borders of the church? That would be a personal opinion, I suppose, because the zip codes that from attendees are well beyond the downtown area. My expectation is that we're reaching out, everywhere we can find people that want to live in this kind of community. So
St. Paul, Book of Ephesians, people far and near. So I would say we're a church without borders. And I think the staff in broader measure comes to its work in that way.
I would hope that with all of these activities that there isn't an underlying goal of just making somebody a member. I think that in the process of proclaiming the gospel, you're not doing it, with a hidden agenda. That you're doing it just out of love. And especially when we serve the underserved or to talk about the well-being of the vulnerable, that doesn't mean that you're going to get a payback from that. So I don't want us to set ourselves up for thinking this is all just about growing our membership, that this is being a servant out into the community.
That's a great comment, and the comment is that we need to make sure we don't default to focusing on new membership and bringing members in, but that the focus is serving the community and offering a place for spiritual growth and grace and peace that doesn't necessarily have a payback. And I think that's the spirit in which we're thinking about it, but that's a great comment. I appreciate it. Yes?
I think this may be more of an action step, but I'm a grandparent. I look around the room and I see more people in my generation than I do in the younger generations. And the future of the church is going to be young families. And I would like to see us have resources for these young families, how to talk to your kids about this, that, or the other, whatever they're dealing with in parenting, as well as just an effort to encourage more young families to worship.
So the comment was, looking around, you see more people of the grandparent generation, and that there's an opportunity to serve young families and give them an opportunity to find a spiritual home and get things and services that they need. Some of this is mentorship, offering mentorship, I would think, but just how do we ensure that we are offering a place where young families can come and feel comfortable and learn and grow, right? And have resources for them as well. Yeah.
Scott?
Yes?
The goals here, as general as they are, drew out some comments about the need for campus improvements. It seems to me that every one of those goals, as general as they are, have great implications for staff. And I didn't see any recognition of the need for consideration of staff requirements.
So the comment was that the goals here, as general as they are, do have implications for the campus, all of them, but also have implications for staff. And that's an omission on my part, Charlie, and I apologize for that. You're exactly right. That came out a number of places in the feedback that we got, and I just didn't put it there, but that's a great comment. Yes, there's definitely staff implications here as well. So.
Could you just put a paper copy of the survey up here with the sermons and announcements? You could say that in church for those who are interested. There are paper copies.
So the suggestion is, and a great one, put paper surveys out where we've got the pamphlets near the reception desk and announce that those are there so that people have an opportunity that maybe they don't want to go to the website or can't, and they can use the paper survey. So Anna is furiously taking a note on that right now, so I'm sure that'll happen.
Say a word if I can just real
Yeah,
quick.
sure, go ahead.
Just sort of, I'm hoping I'm good there. I'm good there. My grandmother, I'm not sure how it worked for y'all in y'all's homes, but my grandmother on my mother's side did not grow in a prayer book tradition. So she had her Bible in her nightstand. And she developed her nightly prayer list by adding to a piece of paper that she would refresh every month the names of those that she was to pray for that week, that night, and also sort of bigger picture pieces. Don't know how you keep your prayer list. It might be on your iPhone. It might be you write it in the back of your prayer book. It may just be a mental piece. But I want to ask and really challenge each of you to have Christ Church in your prayers, and specifically this work. We recognize coming to today that conceivably these goals that were presented would be so broad as to be unsatisfactory, but I want to say a word about that. Moving together as a community is central, it seems to me, to the success of this work. This cannot be about the passions of individuals. It cannot be about the number of hours that this person has to have right now to give to the church. It has to be about all of us and all of our work together. And the committee is attempting now to sort of not just put a toe in the water, but say, we're moving in this direction. September, you can expect to see some specific 7-year goals that show up under these items here. Please, let's reshape, reform these now, so that when we put those goals out there, there's meat for us to chew on. And that's not going to happen without your prayer and every one of us sort of being engaged along those lines. I encourage you to that end, and encourage you to spread the word about what's happened today with friends, family members, and neighbors. Thank you so much for that. Scott, thank you.
And on that, I think we'll close. Thank you so much for being here, and really appreciate your feedback and comments and any more that you can give through the survey process. Thanks.